Express. Would you consider cycling as a means of transport? Tell us what you think. That's the question of the day. And my co-host Michael Gitonga apparently has ridden his bike all the way from Karen to Ngong Road, and I'm curious as to how he's feeling, and we'll be catching up with him in a few. But today the world celebrates World Bicycle Day, a UN recognized international day that acknowledges the uniqueness, longevity and versatility of the bicycle, which has been in use for 2 centuries. Cycling is one of the most simple, affordable, reliable and even environmentally fit, sustainable modes of transport. We spoke to cycling enthusiasts. We'll talk to Michael Gitonga right now, who is, of course, cycling himself and catching up with some motorists who will tell us whether they would rather cycle. And then later on, we'll get an interview on why it is important to consider the bike as your mode of transport. Michael, is it true? Did you cycle all the way from Karen? We saw you earlier on and we couldn't talk to you because, of course, you were hard at it. How are you feeling right now? I would imagine quite tired.
Well, so far so good. The good thing is that at least I cycle quite a little bit, so it's not too bad.
Right.
And yes, we started off in Karen. There's been a number of challenges, and all cyclists will mention that. But I want to bring in Japheth, and I've stopped him from his regular cycling. Japheth, thank you for giving us your time this morning. And Japheth, do you cycle regularly?
This is my main means of commuting. I do like 3 times a week when I commute to work. So this is my regular means of transport.
Okay, why do you choose to cycle as opposed to other means like matatus or even driving?
For me, it's quite fast. First of all, I spend little time on the roads because I avoid traffic jams, and it's also a means of exercise for me.
Okay.
Because to keep fit, I normally use the cycling.
Okay. Everybody I talk to and wants to cycle, their main concern is the safety. Do you have those concerns as well? And how do you keep safe?
Yeah, I do. I do have the safety concerns. But mainly for my part, what I'd advise a cyclist to do is you play your part. Like on the road, when you're about to do any turn or anything, make a hand signal or use the signaling. Also, your dressing should be a bit bright, probably for the drivers to be able to see you for visibility. Yeah, that would make you a bit safer on the road. Also, when cycling, don't try and compete with vehicles. It will be very unsafe for you to compete with vehicles, probably squeeze through very small spaces where probably vehicles are also trying to pass through. So.
Okay, and maybe right now we are on Ngong Road, and maybe just to highlight, there's actually a cycle lane that has been done on Ngong Road, and I guess this is a route that you use pretty often. But I've also noticed that on the same cycle lane, we have boda guys, you have people using it as, pedestrians, walking, and question is, how do you, go through that? How do you navigate that? How do you ensure that you're safe? Because it seems that this has been made specifically for cyclists, but it becomes unsafe when it is used by other people.
Yeah, it's quite unsafe because all the time when you have a pedestrian walking on the cycling lane, you will be forced to go into the road where it's a bit unsafe. So for me, I try to use my voice, probably to project that I'm coming.
Right.
Or I do have...
you can whistle.
Yeah. Or I do have
you have a
horn
of some kind.
A hood, yeah.
Okay.
So I'll alert the pedestrian so that they can get out of the way. But that's our main challenge.
Okay.
Yeah.
What advice or what would you mention to government right now in terms of making this a more cycle-friendly environment and city?
Yeah, probably when designing and planning routes, it will be advisable to factor in cyclists and also pedestrians, because normally when you have a cycling lane totally isolated from the main road, it will be safer for the cyclists to cycle on. And probably what I'd also advise the government or the planners is at where we have the stages where we pick vehicles.
The bus stop.
The bus stop. Probably they could make the bus stop go behind make the lane go behind the the bus stop rather than in front of the bus stop, because you will have to go through vehicles for you to be able to pass at the bus stop. Where when you go behind, it will be safer for you. Yeah, so probably the design of the roads would also be a very good initiative if the government could factor in good road design for cyclists.
Okay. The other challenge many people might wonder how to go about, particularly if you're cycling to work. Maybe you're a banker, for example, and your attire, your work clothes are a suit and all that. How do you go around, the fact that you've gotten there, you're sweaty, you need to look presentable once you get to the office. Sure. And of course, you cannot cycle in your suit.
Yeah, sure. That's a challenge for many cyclists. But for me, luckily, my employer has a place where I can do the freshening up.
Freshen up,
yeah. So probably also for employers, they could provide some safe space where people could freshen up for the day. When they've come from cycling, you've commuted for like 30 minutes, an hour, you need a place to freshen up. So if that place is provided where you are safe and you can be able to freshen up without any difficulties, that will also be a plus for the cyclists and also the employers.
All right, Japheth, and thank you very much. To anybody out there who possibly is thinking, I'd really, really, really love to cycle, but I really don't know how to get about that, what advice would you give to them?
Probably just try, and if you are very new to cycling, cycle where traffic is less, and when you get used to it, you can probably now use a busier road. So if you're starting on cycling as a means of transport, you could cycle in less busy roads, and as you get experience, you can now try to cycle on the big roads,
busier road,
on busier roads. Yeah, while also I'd advise probably when you're new, you could cycle with a group. It will be safer for you because the more experienced people will give you the confidence, and they'll also enable you to learn on how to use the road signs and how to use the road as a cyclist. Yeah, so
all right. Sorry, I know I need to let you go because you need to get to work shortly. But last question, another question that people ask is, what do I need for me to cycle in terms of gear and the bicycle? Where do I get a bicycle from? How much do they cost and all that?
There are several places where you can get bicycles. Mine is a second-hand bicycle. There are various places around Nairobi. You can get them from Yaya Center. You can get them from Kibera. You can get them from the Eastland sides. You can get them from Isili. So there are various places where you can get these second-hand bicycles. And for the cost bit, they vary depending on the features and also on the size of the bicycle. So I'd give a rough estimate of probably around 10 to 20,000 for
a starter bike.
For a starter bike.
Right.
And if you're into more sophisticated bicycles, it could go even higher. So it ranges. It depends also on where you're getting the bicycle from.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Japheth, thank you so much for your time. We totally appreciate and wish you a safe ride to work and keep cycling. And thank you for, being one of those who have taken the initiative to reduce the carbon print and take cycling as an alternative. All right. Thank you very much, Jeff. All right. So that's Japheth, and he's on his way to work. And right now we're on Gong Road. One of the things that we have on Gong Road is that we have the cycle lane there. And if time allows, I would like to now cycle towards the CBD. We may, if we get a chance, stop, and there's a bit of traffic ahead of me, and maybe find out from those who take driving as an alternative, whether, if given, there is a boda right there. I mean, that's what we were talking about. The cycle lane, which has literally been designated specifically for cycling, becomes a danger sport when it is used by others. For instance, that boda guy who has decided that is his bus stop. But anyway, those are some of the challenges that we go through. And as a result, I will attempt to cycle here. If I can catch up with that boda guy and ask him, why does he do that? Because maybe he's not even aware that that is ideally meant to be a cycle lane. So Gong Road becomes an easier place for you to cycle because, well, it has a designated lane specifically meant for cycling. You have one for pedestrians and, okay, he's gone. I was waiting for the vehicle here. and Kibet is going to be joining me shortly. But yeah, for anybody who's considering to be cycling to work, obviously we are hoping that the Nairobi Metropolitan Service, which has said that they're going to be making this user-friendly for cyclists, is something that's going to be done sooner than later. And the good thing is,
we've lost him, but of course, very exciting right there, giving us the very, very, very first-hand experience on what it's like. Let's listen in to what he has to say.
So you can see right here on the cycle lane, the advantage is that there's a huge slab that ensures matatus and cars cannot put you at risk. So it makes it very easy. This is one that, of course, you'd even be able to cycle as a newbie in cycling. The only problem with this particular designated cycle lanes, as you will see, is that it's used by pedestrians, it's used by boda bodas. Sometimes you find they've dug a trench right in the middle and you have no choice. You either have to go onto the road, or to my left, there is a ditch, which becomes a bit of a problem. You need to, improve your whistling skills. And this is exactly what Jeff was talking about. He mentioned that the cycle lane cuts right into a bus stop. That right there was a disaster that was about to take place. But as you can see, I'd have to drive where cars are, or rather ride where cars are. That should not be the case. So if they're to do a cycle lane, it should go round the roundabout as opposed to cutting through the road. So one wonders, what were the designers thinking? It just makes it that much more difficult to do that. We are getting to some traffic lights now, just near the Baptist Church or City Mortuary roundabout. If the traffic lights allow us, I will engage a few drivers and ask them, would they consider cycling as an option? And if they would, maybe why haven't they done that? Because, well, right now, because of the coronavirus issues, we don't have that much traffic. But when we go back to normal, traffic, of course, is a bit of a challenge. And I can see the traffic lights are opening, so we might not be able to engage them. And right now we're on the City Mortuary roundabout, where we have to stop because the traffic lights. But now to get the microphone, Kibet, do you think we are going to be able to engage somebody and find out if they could use? No, not at all. He says no, because lights have opened up. But we're now going to go towards Valley Road, I think. If the driver, well, I'll just follow the driver, but I think we're going towards Kenyatta Hospital. But as you can see now, the cycle lane is over. So I am now literally in the middle of the road, putting myself at risk. I have an advantage now because there's a vehicle that I'm following. But you can imagine when the vehicle is not there, there is no cycle lane that cuts from that side to here. And it just suddenly appears from nowhere. And here's our Boda guy. We shall find out from him. Oh, he's seen me and taken off. But yeah, as mentioned, again, the design of the cycle lane is not that good because look, this is a bus stop. So there's a matatu behind me. I literally have to go around. There are pedestrians here, so that makes it that much more difficult. So if we have anybody from the Nairobi Metropolitan Service watching, and those who possibly are working on that, kindly ensure that the design considers cycling. It is definitely one that would help us reduce the traffic that we have on the road, and that's what we are looking to do. Also, we are living in a day and age where we need to be very careful about carbon emissions and how much we are polluting and depleting the ozone layer. So this would definitely be an alternative and an option for that. So we are now headed towards the CBD. Hopefully we will get there in one piece. I'm sure we will. We said a prayer before we left, so certainly. Again, as you can see, Kibet, there is a truck right here in the middle of a cycle lane. Nobody thought about the cyclist as they were doing that. There's a matatu stopping right in front of me, and good Lord Almighty. Where? Silly. Oh, sorry, I forgot a monea. Well, you need to tone down a little bit when you're cycling. Right here, there's no nothing for the cyclists. again, I just have to cut through the traffic to get to the next side of the cycle lane, which becomes pretty tricky. As you can see, it is not an easy exercise. It is for the strong-hearted. It is for those who have, you know, inabidi roho iwe ngumu, weke roho iwe ngumu. Lakini it is doable. It is, and I think if we have what we call the critical mass, then it certainly would be something that we can consider. So I'll hand it over back to you in the studio, Tricks, for you to... Boss, sasa, lakini nikuulize, bora unatumia cycle lane na hii ni pikipiki bwana. Si inafaa kuwa kwa barabara?
You know, in some cities we do have police officers who, you know, use bicycles. Perhaps Michael should consider a career in that line, because he is putting those who are breaking the rules to task. And of course, one would argue that perhaps the city was designed for a much smaller Nairobi with less population. But right now, we need to upgrade to one that would actually, a design that would actually accommodate all that is happening, the topsy-turvy that we witness every morning in the traffic. And now we have a tweet here by Michael Gitonga, who is the governor of Nairobi, saying they're converting parking spaces into public walkways and cycling lanes. Very soon, he promises, kuingia town with a bicycle will be easier than coming with a vehicle, which is perhaps music to the ears of many who would wish to do away with the traffic snarl up that they have to put up with every single morning. And we did ask you this morning, would you consider cycling as an option as you're going to town or to the CBD to work, wherever you work from? And we have your responses coming in here. We have Kato Wax saying 100% sure. It is the easiest way to beat the heavy road congestion caused by motorcades, or I think he means traffic. And then we have Kevin Temesi saying yes, it's one of the best, and I'm sure Michael would agree with that. And then we have Tobias saying cycling is the best means of transport for short distances. And then we have Abira simply saying yes. Now let's take a look at this particular interview. Today is the world celebrates World Bicycle Day, a UN-recognized international day that acknowledges the uniqueness, longevity and versatility of the bicycle, which has been in use for 2 centuries. Cycling is one of the most simple, affordable, reliable and even environmentally fit, sustainable mode of transport. We spoke to cycling enthusiasts Cyprian Odada and Christopher Cost on how cycling can be made safer in Nairobi.
I've been cycling since 2015, and I started cycling out of frustration. Just like Laban, I got tired of sitting in traffic. And I remember at that point, there was a time we had heavy rains, some roads were flooded, especially in South B, and a lot of people slept in their cars because the roads were flooded. There was nowhere for anyone to go. So I remember that particular time, I just got tired and I needed a different way to get home. I was spending too much money. I was wasting too much time. I would get home, I'm exhausted. I'm not in any good mood. So I thought of walking, but at that point, walking from CBD to Ngong Road was not gonna work for me. So I found an old bicycle that my husband had, and I just decided to try it. And it's been an amazing journey. I think I've come to know who I am as an urban planner. I tell people this, when people ask me what my profession is, and I tell them I'm an urban planner, but I'm an urban planner who has grown to understand that there are a lot of things that we missed out on when we were being taught in school. Our curriculum never taught us anything to do with urban mobility. There's nothing about urban mobility, and it's quite disappointing because we are the same people who are required to design our cities, but nobody teaches us about how to design roads. And roads are one of the most fundamental parts of a city. Roads define a city, you know. Without good roads, your city is as good as useless. I think the best thing Nairobi County can do right now is to have favorable policies that will protect cyclists on the road. At the moment, we still have fluid policies. You know, in case a cyclist encounters a rogue motorist or is involved in an accident, the laws that protect the cyclists are still very vague, and we need those laws to be firm, so that if something happens to this person, let's say a motorist, there are channels that can be followed so that the motorist can be held accountable. You had asked about, advancing what is currently happening. A lot more people cycling, so how can we ensure these people actually continue cycling? And the best way would be for us to have clear distinction between road allocation for pedestrians and for cyclists, because we have NMT, road space that is called NMT, which is, commendable. But when we don't define what's for a pedestrian and what's for a cyclist, we end up cyclists and pedestrians end up clashing, because the space that has been provided is usually not wide enough. And a lot of the roads that are being built in Nairobi still use highway codes or highway standards to design the road. I would encourage anybody who has a bicycle, as long as, if you are able to, you can go out for a socially distanced ride. Just enjoy enjoy your space, and encourage your friends and your family to get on the bicycle. If you don't ride bicycles, this would be a fantastic time for you to start cycling, because you can be by yourself on your bicycle and remain safe, because you're not interacting with people. And it's healthy, it's fun, you kill time, you have a peace of mind doing this. I mean, riding bicycle. So I would say to cyclists in Nairobi, to cyclists around the world, go outside if you can, if you're allowed to. Go outside and have fun, and keep your distance, and just spread love, spread joy. The world is pretty volatile and pretty sad right now, so spread joy and spread happiness.
So for me, biking is the best way to beat Nairobi's notorious traffic. If you want to get to your meeting on time, get a bike. And it's a good way to get exercise in the process. I use the bike for my daily commute, and I also use it for all of my errands. I use it to go to meetings in the middle of the day. So the single biggest step that we can take in Nairobi is to develop protected bike lanes on all the major streets in the city. And this is part of designing for all ages and abilities, instead of just thinking about cars when we're designing our streets. So we need a network of protected bike lanes, and we need to ensure that it's safe for everyone. Biking is particularly critical during the COVID-19 pandemic. So cities around the world have been developing pop-up bike lanes as part of their response. So if you take Bogota, for instance, they built 76 kilometers of bike lanes. Paris is implementing 50 kilometers of bike lanes out of a planned network of 650 kilometers. And the reason they're doing this is because biking can facilitate physical distancing, and it can also ensure that when we come out of the lockdowns and we reopen the economy, we don't have a surge in congestion and toxic air pollution that comes with it.
And there you have it. You've heard from our co-host Michael Gitonga. You've heard from those enthusiasts who have turned their life around by just opting for cycling as a mode of transportation. We're going to take a short break.